Hello everyone, and welcome to Frost Ranks the worst and best tracks in Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed. This game is a lot of fun, and in some ways I enjoy it more than other staples of the video game racing genre such as Mario Kart. It has a higher skill cap and doesn't feature as much janky item bullshit. Although that definitely still happens sometimes. While this game doesn't have any tracks I would consider straight up terrible, some shine a lot brighter than others. Apologies in advance if I end up slandering your favorite track. Without any more chatting, let's get into the list. 5th worst, Outrun Bay. I swear the developers included this track just so they could say this game has DLC tracks. It starts off with a long strip of road which is harmless enough, but the boat section is where things really get interesting. This part is very wide open, I'd argue a bit too wide open. It feels less like racing and more like driving through the water until you eventually reach the other side. It's still fun, but with a bit more focus I think it could have been a lot better. In a nutshell, this track seems like a slightly worse version of Carrier Zone. Spoiler alert for later in the video. 5th best, Egg Hangar. The Death Egg is one of the most well-known locations in Sonic the Hedgehog's history, and it's in top form here. Driving around on a Death Egg covered in neon lights with a clear shot of the earth below you as you race creates a great sense of immersion. The track itself is a good level of challenging. Not so wide you can take every turn with little thought, but not so narrow as to demand absolute perfection. Even with the power of items, skill usually takes the cake over luck for this track, which motivates the player to push harder instead of just hoping to get All-Star on the last corner. 4th worst, Seasonal Shrines. This track is in this spot for one major reason. Those damn stairs. I don't know if it's just me, but those stairs can make setting up your angle next to impossible sometimes. If you don't set yourself up perfectly from the very start, you're going to be in a rough spot since you have to do back-to-back stair jumps twice on each lap, culminating in 12 stair jumps. The rest of the track is fine though, especially the water area that allows for an insane amount of tricks during Transform Boost, but damn it, those stairs can be irritating. 4th best, Carrier Zone. This is one of the game's simplest tracks, but that's oddly what I like about it so much. It's got 2 long straights combining flight and boating, and 2 sharp corners on land. If you want to get ahead on this track, you really have to take advantage of your opportunities since long straights make drifting, and by extension drift boost, much less of a factor. There are plenty of chances for long-range snipes though, especially if you're good with ice and fireworks. For a track that's primarily on water, this one is surprisingly memorable. 3rd worst, Graveyard Gig. This track just doesn't do it for me like some of the others do. I've never been a huge fan of the whole Haunted Mansion thing, so it's already losing some points for that. Also, it doesn't do much that really impresses me or distinguishes it a ton from other tracks. This is the track I always forget is in the game, since it's outclassed by many of the other ones. 3rd best, Graffiti City. I've wanted to visit Japan for a while now, and tracks like this make me want to visit even more. I love the design choice of having this track take place during sunset as opposed to broad daylight. It's dark enough to take in the immense scale of the city, but there's just enough light that you can still see far off into the distance. Driving around on roads that change on each lap adds a new layer of complexity since you can't just memorize the layout on lap 1 and call it a day. You have to adapt each time. And the way the roads and buildings seamlessly merge into one another is excellent. This track also has quite a few mini jumps, such that you can pull off a trick but only if you're really good with the timing. It's another thing that pushes you to aim for every possible advantage you can get. 2nd worst, Sunshine Tour. It probably doesn't help that I know pretty much nothing about Amigo or the game series he originates from, but I don't have a ton of love for this track. To be fair, Samba Studios isn't one of my favorites either, but that track at least has the benefit of multiple vehicle types to spice things up, and this track doesn't have that. It does have a weird rainbow colored section that's just kinda strange and weird. The nail in the coffin has to be the music. Music hasn't been a huge factor in the list up to this point, but this particular song is not my cup of tea. Call me crazy, but I can't stand the sound of maracas in music. Based on these criticisms, some of you can probably guess which track is going to be the worst, but for those of you who can't, don't worry, we're almost there. Second best, Adder's Lair. This track is wildly impressive. Starting off at a river of lava is something special on its own, but then you're immediately thrown into a flying section that's one of the few in the game where aerial drifting is actually worth doing. This also provides plenty of chances for risk boosts. The scale of this track is absolutely massive, and it really feels like a mini adventure of sorts. I think it's one of the hardest tracks to get the hang of as far as understanding where the time-saving opportunities are, but once you do, it's incredibly satisfying. The immersion factor is just sensational. Worst track in the game, Dream Valley. Despite what my earlier statements might have led you to believe, this is the only track in the game I think is genuinely, well, not fun. It feels less like racing and more like aimless flying. You can fly through rings to increase your speed, but you probably won't need to do that anyway since the AI is notoriously slow on this track. By the middle of the second lap, I was cruising to the end knowing there was a 0% chance I was going to be caught. Mind you, I played all these tracks on expert difficulty for this video, and this track posed by far the least amount of challenge. Also, the art choices are a bit odd to me. There's variation, but the different areas don't really come together in a cohesive way. Maybe that was the point, but regardless, I don't really care. Dream Valley is the worst course in the game. Best track in the game, Rogue's Landing. This track also uses the evening time of day I praised Graffiti City for. I don't know about you guys, but driving around on a racetrack as enemy ships fly in from above and slowly wreck the place is on another level of cool to me. I know a lot of the game's tracks have elements like this, but here it's a lot more in your face and forces quicker reactions from the player. Whether that's jumping over a bridge that just exploded in front of your face, or navigating your way through small pathways coated in mines. There are also some multiple pathways, but unlike some other tracks, there isn't a clearly best choice that makes the other paths objectively slower. Assuming you aren't a speedrunner. Above all else though, I think this track has the most impressive scale of any track in the game, and it allows every single mechanic in the game to shine at once. Thus, I consider Rogue's Landing the best track in the game. And there you have it guys, that's the list. Feel free to let me know your thoughts about it. Did I slander your favorite track? Did I surprise you? Whatever the case may be, I'm all ears. As always, thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one.